Hello, this is Craig with Red Chip Company. Thank you for joining today's event with Nutriband, which trades on the NASDAQ under the ticker NTRB. With us today, we have Gareth Sheridan, Chief Executive Officer, and Sergey Melnik, President and Chairman. We will begin with a brief presentation in a moment, and then we will answer your questions. Users may submit a question at any time by using the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom window. Before we begin, please allow me to read the Safe Harbor Statement. This call may contain forward-looking statements within the meaning of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. All statements pertaining to future financial and/or operating results, along with other statements about the future expectations, beliefs, goals, plans, or prospects expressed by management, constitute forward-looking statements. Any statements that are not historical facts should also be considered forward-looking statements. Of course, forward-looking statements involve risks and uncertainties. I now turn the webinar over to Gareth and Sergey. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I'll share my screen here. I understand some people that have joined today are somewhat familiar with the company already, and some may be hearing the story for the first time. So I'll give a brief background on the company itself, and then we'll primarily focus on our AVERSA technology and the milestones we've been hitting over recent months, which is the primary focal point and value proposition. Make sure that everyone can see that okay. Greg, that's okay?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so a little bit of a brief background about Nutriband. We're a pharmaceutical company with a specific focus on transdermal technology. Transdermal essentially just means delivery through the skin. Think nicotine patches, nitroglycerin patches for angina, these types of products. We structured the company in a sense to keep our focus on being not as non-dilutive as possible, as creating value as a shareholder, and we've done this in a number of ways. Firstly, we tend to focus primarily on FDA-approved drugs. We use transdermal technologies to improve upon existing drugs, whether that be comfort, safety, efficacy, and so on. And secondly, we have two revenue-generating subsidiaries in the contract manufacturing space and clinical trials space, which helps to keep our burn to a minimum and helps our development, keep on course in terms of capabilities that we have in-house as well. Just to give you a visual on the structure of the company, we have Nutriband Inc., which is the public entity on the NASDAQ. 4P Therapeutics, which is based in Atlanta, is our clinical research arm. At 4P, we're conducting a lot of our own clinical development in-house for AVERSA, which we'll be focusing on. Pocono Pharmaceutical, which is a contract manufacturer. We have this based just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. We manufacture mostly over-the-counter products and sports products, such as KT Tape's new brand line, who we manufacture for. AI Tape is an in-house brand. It's a sports tape that we manufacture also. These revenue-generating subsidiaries primarily cover operational costs, while invested capital goes towards the development of AVERSA. So to give you an idea of what AVERSA is and what we've been working on as of late, AVERSA is our first major product in the pharmaceutical space. It's a platform technology that is applicable to any patch on the market today, with a goal of significantly improving the safety profile of that patch. The clear candidate for us was the opiate space. Opiates, when used correctly, are a very effective pain medication. This is for severe and chronic pain. Think cancer pain, end-of-life care, spinal injuries. These are the type of patient population you're talking about with opiate pain medications. And as of today, there really is no alternative to opiate-based treatment. However, there is a massive need in the pain community for these types of products. The problem that I think we're probably all familiar with is that opiates in their current state are very easy to abuse and contribute in a hefty manner to the overdose rates that we see across the country. An unfortunate statistic that we can touch on is that, for the first time ever in 2022, we had over 100,000 overdoses in the United States. Last year, we had 112,000 overdoses, and this year we're on track to probably surpass 120,000 overdoses across the country. A lot of this is made up from illegal fentanyl and illegal opiates and street drugs that contribute to this problem. but there is a major contribution from prescribed medications in their current state also. And this really comes down to the fact that in their current state, they're very easy to abuse. The benefits of AVERSA are threefold, however. Firstly, we reduce the ability for people with addiction to abuse these types of products. That naturally has a positive impact on the market. It has a positive impact on the stigma surrounding opiate medications. But secondly, and equally as important as that, is accidental exposure. There's been a number of cases in the last 5 years where children under the age of 5 have picked up a used fentanyl patch out of the garbage, they put it in their mouth, they chewed on it, and unfortunately it passed away. There's been dozens more hospitalizations on top of that again. And then thirdly, and equally as important again, is to make sure that the pain community who genuinely rely on these types of treatments have adequate access to these types of drugs, which in recent years we've seen prescription rates drastically drop. So when we look at an opiate-based patch, looking at fentanyl first, which is what we're proving the model with, and working our way down the opiate family, we looked at all the major routes of abuse of these types of products, and mostly they tend to be oral or nasal. So imagine a patch the size of a credit card. You will have people cut that patch up and chew it like a chewing tobacco. They will steep it in a solution such as alcohol to remove the residual fentanyl, then consume that concoction. People will actually smoke the contents of the patch as well. Very easy to abuse in its current state, as you can imagine. So how do we address this in a very effective but simple manner and something that's easy to understand? And the solution was to make it taste really, really bad. Unpleasant is a light way of putting it. I think unbearable is a suitable word for this solution. And what we've done is we've taken an existing FDA-approved fentanyl patch and we've added an additional layer on the back of that again, containing 2 ingredients: denatonium benzoate, which is the most bitter substance on the planet, and capsaicin, or red pepper extract. Now, if you want to chew that patch, you have to chew those ingredients. If you want to smoke it, you have to smoke those ingredients. If you want to make a tea out of it, you have to consume those ingredients. Very simple, but very effective. The beauty about the ingredients we use also is that they are 2 food-grade, non-toxic, non-harmful ingredients. There is no risk of an adverse reaction in a patient because of those 2 ingredients. If you use the patch as directed, you would not know the 2 ingredients were on the back of that patch. Visually, just to give you an example, on the left we have a generic fentanyl patch that's on the market today, which is approved by the FDA. You have your black release liner, you have your blue drug layer, and then you have a backing layer. A very simple but a very effective product, but also very easily abused, as you can imagine. What we've done is take the existing patch and we've made the release liner permeable. We do not interact or change the drug layer whatsoever, which is very important to understand as I explain the development pathway. We leave the backing layer the same, and then we add our 2 ingredients on the back of this again. Very simple, but very effective. Again, if you want to smoke it, you have to smoke these ingredients. If you want to consume it, the permeable release liner releases the drug into the concoction at the same rate as the backing layer will be released, combining the ingredients and making it very unpleasant. From a regulatory standpoint, we're at the end of a complicated couple of years in the opiate space. Obviously, in the height of the OxyContin issues and the Purdue scandal, opiates had a very negative stigma, and probably rightfully so, given the pill pushing and the market kind of dynamics at the time. The regulators had to look to take a stance at this, obviously, and the sentiment became very anti-opiate. So you saw the CDC revise prescribing guidelines to be anti-opiate, use alternatives where possible, wind people off opiate use. Same with the FDA's action plan for opiates to encourage, labeling requirements. The problem, however, is that the decisions that were made were far too drastic in a short space of time. As of today, there is no comparable treatment to opiates on the market. If somebody was reliant on a fentanyl patch for managing their chronic pain, you can't be expected now to take a Tylenol and have the same effect or adequate management of your pain. So it created a massive issue in the pain community where there was inadequate access to these drugs. And that also further bolstered the illicit use of these opiates, because now patients that were not able to get their drugs from their prescriber were adding to the issue of illegal opiate use and buying their drugs from the street just to manage this chronic pain. As we were developing AVERSA, we saw this as something that would eventually see a correction. It was calling out for abuse-deterrent tech. It was calling out for labeling requirements, something we had been working on behind the scenes. As of today, we will be hopefully the first one to market with no competition coming up anywhere close to us, and we'll be the only product of its kind on the market in this space. From an IP perspective, we're also very well protected. We're patented in 44 countries. China will round out a 45-country patent portfolio. All major markets are covered. All of North America, all major markets in Europe, Asia, Australia, and South America. And the patent is quite broad and very well aligned for us to keep ourselves protected. As you can probably remember, you have an existing FDA-approved fentanyl patches on the market today. We add our additional layer on the back, and this is the basis of the IP. It's very difficult to come up with a competing abuse-deterrent tech without infringing on our IP because the product in itself is so simple. To have a competitive product, you would probably have to interfere or interact with the drug layer, and that creates a whole litany of other issues on top of that again in terms of approval rates. Market opportunity, which I'm sure everybody is interested in. We're in a very nice niche as a company that we can do a lot of good for our shareholders and then do a lot of good socially in terms of bringing down these abuse rates and hospitalizations and deaths. When we listed on the NASDAQ in October of 2021, the first course of action was that we got a call from Kindeva Drug Delivery, formerly 3M Drug Delivery, the pioneers of the modern patch, the experts in the space, if you will, probably the #1 partner we could have asked for globally for developing a product like this. We signed a feasibility agreement with Kindeva to take their FDA-approved fentanyl patch, add our AVERSA technology with a goal of taking this to market with us as the marketer and them as the manufacturer. The first course of action here was to hire a independent company called Health Advances, which build out your go-to-market strategy, market expectation, and overall market analysis report. And this is typically done in the earlier stages of drug development, so you can forecast revenues and so on. The key takeaway from our Health Advances report, which was very detailed, is that in current market conditions at the time, we would be able to expect peak annual revenues of up to $200 million. The other key point to take away, in a category that's so heavily impacted by a negative focus, insurance companies are actually willing to pay a 20% premium versus what's on the market today because of the reduced liability. The report also indicated that there is a precedent for us to have an FDA mandate on abuse deterrence if we get this to market. We believe there's a strong possibility of that also, and there is a precedent with OxyContin. Should the FDA mandate abuse deterrence, we would be the only product of its kind in this space. Just starting with fentanyl, this will be an $800 million a year market opportunity. What the report didn't touch on, and this is something internal that we focus on, is that in 2016, this was a $4 billion a year market. It's about a quarter of that today, mostly due to the reduced prescription rates, but the market size and the pain population has not reduced by 75%. We're targeting being the, bridging the disconnect between prescription rates and the actual pain community who rely on this product. So we could see revenues increase 4 times above that 800 million a year again. So the 200 million a year, forecast in current market conditions, we feel is a conservative estimate for the opportunity with this product. But just to remind you as well, fentanyl is product #1. This is a platform. Its applications are very broad. Buprenorphine, which is a lesser strength opiate, is second in our pipeline and something we'll be adding AVERSA to. And methylphenidate, which is an ADHD drug, is also in our pipeline to add AVERSA to when it's commonly abused. Buprenorphine is particularly interesting. Not only is it an adequate pain treatment for pain, but it is a very suitable replacement for methadone. So methadone is used to wind people off opiate addiction. However, methadone clinics in their current state are somewhat flawed. The methadone is still easily abused. It can be sold, it can be shared, and it still gets the patient somewhat of a high if used incorrectly. What we're looking at with buprenorphine in this space is that replacing methadone with a buprenorphine patch that could be worn by a patient to wind them off opiate abuse, similar to how a nicotine patch works. The patch would give the patient a slow release of opiate into the body, enough to meet a craving or a need, but not at a rate high enough to get high. The patch would also be very difficult to abuse, so it will be a reduced risk of these patches being sold, misused, shared, and so on. Typical issues that you see in methadone today. So moving outside just the pain space, buprenorphine has a very interesting opportunity in the addiction space. These graphs will just give you a reminder of the figures we talked about. With AVERSA fentanyl, we're looking at up to 200 million a year in current market conditions, rising to 800 or possibly beyond that again if we move back to 2016 levels. Buprenorphine, we also did a health advances report with. Buprenorphine, which is a growing market at the moment, is expected to have the potential to reach peak annual sales of up to $130 million. This does not take into consideration the addiction route that we could take this also. I mentioned earlier that it's important that our product and our technology does not interact or interfere with the drug layer, and this will give you an idea of why. We take a generic fentanyl patch and we take our AVERSA fentanyl patch. The delivery rate will be the exact same, the bioavailability will be the exact same, the size, the strengths, everything will be the exact same as a generic patch on the market today, however, drastically more difficult to abuse. By not interacting or interfering with the drug layer, it reduces a huge amount of the clinical development pipeline required prior to an NDA submission. Everything we add with AVERSA is external to an existing patch. So we do our preclinical evaluation, our feasibility work, and then one single phase 1 clinical trial prior to an NDA submission. When we file our NDA, this would be a branded product and not a generic. It would not be transferable for generics with insurance companies, and we will be able to charge a 20% premium to the market without being disruptive to coverage. That is the plan that we plan to take with these types of products, and then repeat the process again with buprenorphine, methylphenidate, and multiple other products that AVERSA has applications for. The timeline in development is a lot smaller because of the requirement for just the single phase 1 trial. And the costs involved are a lot smaller because of the requirement for the single phase 1. We do not need a phase 2 or phase 3. As of today on this call, we're targeting Q1 of next year to actually file for approval, file our NDA with the FDA. We should have a 6-month expedited review with the FDA because of the space that we're in, with a goal of getting our first AVERSA product to market in Q4 of 25, which will be AVERSA fentanyl. The opportunity to be a disruptor in this space is there. We think we are in a position that we could cannibalize the market and create a new safety standard for these types of products while improving the stigma associated with these adequate pain management products. Thanks for your time today. Happy to answer any questions, and I'll put it back to Redshift.
Thanks very much, Gareth. We're going to take your written in questions now. If you want to submit a question, press the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window and type in your question. We've already got one here. As a shareholder owning shares, I've noticed the significant increase in daily trading volume consistent with the recent rise in the stock price. Is the company aware of any individual, group, or other entity that has made a filing with the SEC as a 5% shareholder 13D?
We're not aware of any significant additions. We are keeping a close eye on our institutional ownership, which seems to be increasing at a healthy rate. This certainly could have an effect on that. And I think the market is starting to understand how close we are to an FDA submission, and that's starting to be built in. That's primarily in our minds what's driving the recent movement, and the fact that we're up 200% on the year.
And someone wants to know, what are the gross margins?
Typically for a product like this, you're looking at about 45 to 50%. We'll have final numbers on that in the coming months when we have the final commercial product, which we will use in the clinical trial. But typically you're looking at 45, 50%. Can
you explain how those aversive agents in AVERSA work to prevent the abuse?
Of course, yeah. So if you remember, the major routes of abuse tend to be mostly oral. So people will chew a patch, smoke a patch, make a type of tea using the patch. The two ingredients that we code on the back of the patch taste really bad. That's a light way of putting it. They taste, it's an unbearable concoction, let alone in a standalone way. Denatonium, to give you an idea, is an ingredient that we're applying to the pharmaceutical space. However, it's been used for years in products like Tide Pods in a very small dosage. Duracell have recently started coating some of their smaller batteries in a very small dosage. Our dosage is not very small. And if small dosages of denatonium trigger an infant, for example, to spit out a battery, you can imagine what larger, immediate, and timed release dosages of this do. One important thing to note is that there is very little room to have a workaround on the ingredients on the back. There is an immediate and there is an extended release profile. You can't outweight the products going stale and not having the effect. If you try to chew it immediately and then you try and chew it 8 hours later, it still has the same effect with the backing ingredients. So the immediate reaction is to spit out the patch, particularly in accidental exposure with infants. But somebody suffering from addiction who's trying to use these patches incorrectly, it would be very, very difficult to chew on this patch long enough to get the high. And nothing is abuse-proof. Abuse-deterrent is a very specific word, which is something that the FDA, are accepting of as well. Our goal is to drastically improve the safety profile of these products, not completely eradicate the misuse, which will never happen. But 99 times out of 100, if not 999 times out of 1,000, we're going to be able to deter the abuse and the misuse of these products.
Are you going to market this product yourself?
That's the plan as of now. Kindeva will be the manufacturer, we will be the marketer.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the advantages of having those revenue-generating subsidiaries? I know you mentioned it, but let's hear about it a little bit more, please.
Yeah, some of the key points with the subsidiaries that we have in place, we've been able to keep our burn relatively low versus, industry standards in a company in our position. It helps cover operational costs. We've put some resources and capital behind, particularly Pocono, in the recent years, and we've attracted a new caliber of customer this year. KT Tape is the #1 kinesiology tape manufacturer in the world, or not manufacturer, #1 kinesiology tape brand in the world. We're manufacturing their new line of products, and they're in 40,000 stores in North America. We're currently working to roll that out with them in a penetration pricing model. Once we hit volumes, we should expect to see significant return on that. These are the types of contracts and relationships we've been trying to build since our acquisition of Pocono. Our other major relationship that we were able to develop this year was with a company called FFL. FFL hold licenses for brands such as Reebok, New Balance, Adidas, and they sell into major retail across America as well. So this is another brand line that we've been working on with FFL, which will be launching into major retailers nationwide. So we expect to see revenues increase at our subsidiaries, which helps keep our burn to a minimum. And we're in a position now where going back to the market and raising money is not even a thought process for us. We believe we're adequately funded to take AVERSA right through to market.
Can you be more specific about what that burn rate is, Gareth?
Yeah, so we're in a position where we're nearing the end of our clinical development with Kindeva. This burn rate always increases towards the end as you're getting nearer to filing your NDA submission. So we have a number of months ahead of us prior to that NDA submission where our burn rate is not going to be consistent with what we've seen. Between now and then, we have our human abuse liability phase 1 trial. That's approximately a $3 million study. Right now, we're spending anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 a month with Kindeva as we approach that NDA filing period. So as costs will ramp up, so will spend. However, we are also in a position where this is our first filing for an NDA with the FDA. Typically, that filing is $3 to $4 million. This will be waived for us because we're a first-time filer in a small company capacity. So that is something that will have a positive impact on the burn rate between now and then. As of today on the call, we have approximately $7.5 million in the bank, which is going towards the rest of the development of AVERSA.
Thank you very much for that. Again, if you have a question for the team here, push the Q&A button and then type in your question. What are the main challenges Nutriband faces in bringing this AVERSA fentanyl to the market? We know that there's a huge opioid problem, and people just want to know, why isn't it out there already?
Yeah, I think some of the main issues with in terms of the development of AVERSA we've already faced. There is no, this is an unprecedented territory that we're in. There isn't an aversive fentanyl patch that's been developed and taken to market similar to what we're doing. So some of the issues that we faced were in a manufacturing capacity. Right now we're working on finalizing our commercial scale up, which will be the product that actually goes to market, which will be used in the phase 1 trial. There were manufacturing, hurdles we had to jump and overcome in that process. We think we're in a position now where we've overcome much of the initial unknown. Between now and then and the hurdles that we have in front of us, it's an education for the market mostly, making sure that prescribers can get comfortable prescribing these products again because of the reduced liability, getting the backing of the FDA and the regulators, which we think will come, with open arms, and then insurance companies who we know will cover this at a 20% premium. So a lot of the unknowns and a lot of the risks we've overcome to this point. The main thing is to keep the focus on getting AVERSA to market, make sure that there's an education involved and why this is substantially safer than what's already there, and making sure that we continue to manage the company from a financial perspective in a way that we see shareholder value at the end of this. Again, we're not a company that is continually going back to market to make this a reality. We're sitting with the blueprint in front of us now.
Thank you, Gareth. Would you be open to licensing to other companies?
Yeah, so our focus is on North America at this time. We are patented internationally again in 44, soon to be 45 countries. Our goal from an international perspective would be to build licensing relationships and expand internationally that way. So while we're intending to take this product to market as the marketer in North America, international licenses is on our radar also.
Can you speak about the 20% premium insurance companies may be willing to pay? Will this apply to other products?
Yes, this will apply to products in using our aversive technology. And just to clarify if there was any misunderstanding, this is not a 20% they may be willing to pay. Insurance companies advised they would be willing to pay a 20% premium versus what's on the market today. So this is data that we have directly from the insurance companies that they would cover this at a 20% premium. Which is a very beneficial position to be in, given how hard it is to get insurance companies on your side to begin with. So I think having the backing of the insurance companies and the regulators gives us a smooth entry into the market for AVERSA fentanyl, and then repeat the process with buprenorphine, methylphenidate, and so on.
Again, if you wish to ask a question of Gareth, you can type in your question. First, press the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Give everyone a moment here to think of any more questions they may have for Nutriband. Thank you to everyone for your questions. I don't see any more questions at this time, gentlemen. Gareth, if you want to send us off with the essential value proposition, why should investors take a look at your company right now?
The main thing to take away from this call is that we believe internally that we're still in our infancy in terms of where this could go in terms of value. We're a company with a little under 11 million shares outstanding. 12 months time from now, we're the only product of its kind on the market with a $200 to $330 million opportunity shortly after that. There's a real opportunity for us to cannibalize the space, and you have a management team and a company internally that very much believes in this. The stock has had a tremendous run since January. Not a single insider has sold or even attempted to sell. The stock has been $12 before. There's been no insider selling. We certainly believe, and I'm obviously biased, but we're drastically undervalued in terms of our near-term opportunity even now. So that's what I would have as a takeaway. I think it's clear that we have shareholders' best interests at heart, having even done a forward split 2 years ago. So this is something that we want to see through with existing shareholders who have been with us through the ups and the downs, and certainly new shareholders who want to take the rest of the journey with us.
Thank you very much, Gareth. Now, before we go, if you want more information about Nutriband, please reach us at 1-800-RED-CHIP. That's 1-800-733-2447, or email us at ntrb@redchip.com. Please visit RedChip's investor information page for Nutriband. It's ntrbinfo.com. ntrbinfo.com, ntrbinfo.com. There you can view and download the investor presentation and fact sheet and sign up for news alerts on Nutriband. Please be sure to watch Small Stocks, Big Money, RedChip's program featuring exciting small cap companies every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg USA. Join RedChip's forthcoming webinars, Kalidi Biotherapeutics on Wednesday, July 31st, 1606 Corp on Thursday, August 1st, and CanFight Biopharma on Thursday, August 8th. All webinars start at 4:15 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Register for those events and for all RedChip webinars at redchip.com/events, where you can also view an archived version of today's Nutriband webinar. Thanks again to our many participants today, and thank you, Gareth and Sergey.